murderer if he is no friend to me. It's not working out, maybe it's the chemistry. It's time to break up, so what can make a better man?
Hey, for the fourth time in 3 hours, I am Pom in Oz. Welcome to the Pommy and Fazz show. If I'm Pommy, that means the guy next to me must be Fazz. Fazz, how are you doing, my sexy friend?
Mate, I'm very good. I'm very good. It's good to see you. I've seen a lot of you over the last couple of hours. You know, watching you on your various other ventures. But look, I just wanted to get off the bat straight away. I saw the Carlton team, and I thought there's only one thing I can that made me think when I saw the Carlton team, and that's here we go, baby. It's on. It's happening. We're on, boys.
Oh, not another fucking
Mate.
Haven't seen one of them for a while.
Yeah, well, anyway, it's good to be here. It's good to be here.
It's great. We've got loads of people as well. I've seen Jason. It is going to be a late night. The wonderful Paul. Thank you very much, mate, for your kind words. We've got Glenn. Mate, maybe you can see a doctor about it. We've got Amy. Tell you what, some of these names I've seen on every show I've done today, so I really appreciate the support, to be honest, because honestly, I'm actually sick of seeing my own face because I get to see me talking to you. So I really appreciate it. So with Fazz's intro, let's get straight into Carlton news.
Living life every day, late at night, not okay. All I want, and I pray, all I need are some better days. Fuck me.
Well, Carlton named their team selection, but first, before we talk about that, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Carlton played last week. We're back. AFL is well and truly there. I was on the beers watching My Chemical Romance, so I didn't see it live. Some idiots in a Richmond Guernsey ruined the live experience for me because I was waiting behind him and he goes, fucking hate the Blues. Fucking the scabbed a draw, the bastards. And that ruined the surprise for me. I managed to avoid all knowledge in the gig. So thank you to that Richmond guy. But initial thoughts, ladies and gentlemen, let me know. Fazz, I know you were raving about it. Your Twitter was alight.
Mate, it was a really weird game. And I mean this, at halftime, I turned to my old man. I said, geez, if I was a neutral supporter, I'd have turned this off a quarter and a half ago. It was the fucking... I even sent a Snapchat to my mate Mitch from work. And I said, mate, this is the worst game of football I think I've ever seen in my life. But then all of a sudden, we had the ball. We're up. Lynch takes the mark. I wanted to neck myself. But then, I don't know, like, I actually, by the end of it, and those of you follow me on Twitter, I was quite complimentary of it, which, you know, maybe I went too far the other way, which is ironically what Carlton have gone too far the other way. But I think, to me, my immediate reaction, because I watched it again, all right? So I watched it, and I watched it again straight away. And my immediate reaction was, I haven't seen that from Carlton. So last year we played frantic, headless chicken attacking football, which was sexy to watch, right? It was sexy. I'll be the first one to say we were great to watch. We finished ninth, so it was not good enough. What I got excited about was it was clear the coaches have said that's not good enough. Whether or not they've made a mistake and gone full the other way, time will tell. It's been one game. But the pleasing thing for me was that they literally have gone away and said, we can't play frantic, attacking, headless chicken football because it won't make your finals and it won't win you a grand final. We need a layer. So here's a layer. Is it a case of they put this layer on for a couple of weeks and then start adding it together? I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. Is it a case of 2023 is this way the whole year and then 2024 is when they mix it all together? I don't know. But my positive reaction was, shit, at least we've got coaches who actually want to change something, because reality, guys, injuries, whatever, we finished ninth. Playing sexy attacking football, we finished ninth. That's not good enough. So they did something. That was my reaction, and I guess I was positive on Twitter, and yeah,
Mate, Rude Hullet played sexy football. Did sexy football.
Yeah.
Mate, I understand what you're on about that. I mean, like for me, I've watched the game 4 times because I've got something actually wrong with me. So I don't know what it is, but I have watched it. I've tried to stabilize it, and Richard, I think, here nails it. I am in 3 minds, right? And 2 minds, right, are really good, right? So I'm going to be totally honest. 2 minds are everything's good, top 8 football, Blues are back, baby, right? And then option number 3 is, tell you what, pick yourself an EPL team and make sure it's a good one. But we'll go through them. Option number 1, my initial thought on the first one was a bit like you. I looked at it and I thought, right, Richmond, what are they good at? They score with the ball in motion. Their biggest question mark, we know the media like to complain about every team, whether you win or lose, was they don't score organically. Thank you very much, my beautiful wife. Was that literally Carlton had done their research. You look at the second time we played Richmond, they destroyed us playing that come on to brand. They were a lot smarter, right? So that is option 1, that Voss has literally done a tactical masterclass, got it wrong, maybe pressed the button too late to take that game on, but they got the draw. And at the end of the day, they've learned a lesson with a draw. Now, the second option is doing a bit of research, but when Voss subscribes to learning lessons in game, right? Now, if you remember, when I previewed the season, I said 0-2, right? Has Voss gone big brain? Big brain. I'm talking biggest brain in the world of sport, in the history of sport. And has he gone big brain because he's gone, right, these games probably, if we play our crash bash style, we probably lose. So, like when he put Dow on Golden, and he admitted, Hansen said, a lot of players were learning a lesson in-game of how a player similar to them beats them, right? Golden probably taught Dow the best lesson Dow's ever got. And I think what may have happened is he's gone, right, let's play a very defensive brand and how we'd structure up if we wanted to kill games, which we were poor at last season. Play it for 4 quarters, knowing it complements the opposite style, and really, really learn and hone this, because these boys are going to be under the cosh. And why I say that may be an option is this is why option number 3 is bad. If it's a permanent structure change, every centre bounce, a great example, Curnow kicks the goal. Now, last year, when Curnow kicked a goal in the 4th like that, Carlton are ahead. What you saw would happen is Voss genuinely went attacking, which was probably to his detriment at times in tight games. But once we got the initiative, he threw the best players around the ball. He went very attacking. Invariably, Fisher went there for leg speed. Carlton went win contest, get the ball away. Let's get the second goal, ice the game. Voss worried me in this game against Richmond because we went with our most defensive setup, Hewitt, Cripps, and Kennedy. And their first movement from the ball being bounced was switching to the D side of that contest. No one went the attacking side. And also, other proof, Motlop and Fisher and Owens spent their average game time behind the ball. Even from the first bounce, Motlop makes a 30-meter run to defend the wing. Now, that is either option 3, structural, and it's a structural change, and Carlton are going to become Western Eagles 2018. Mick Malthouse Eagles, where it's ball retention, rigid defense, really tough to break down. And Voss is going to know eventually that centre corridor will be strong from that because he's taken that. The issue is the game is becoming higher scoring every year and teams are handballing more. And that was the highest kick to handball Voss has ever played, the highest since Bolton. It was also the lowest pressure index we've ever seen in the forward line. the best forward defensively, Jack Martin, his first time in the top 3 ever playing for Carlton, right? The lowest pressure index since Bolton. I do get concerned by if that wasn't a one-off, if that's the structure, and it can't be option 3. Voss didn't.
Let's be positive and just say option 3 is not on the table.
I think that might be my kids. So if it is, hi David, Zane, love you to pieces. I know you've got a bit of a late night tonight.
I love that. That's cute. Hi guys. So let's just take option 3 off the table. Let's be positive for 5 seconds, which anyone who saw my Twitter tonight would be like, Fazz, what are you talking about? Because I had the bloke sacked tonight. But anyway, let's take option 3 off the table and just talk about what you were saying with option 2. Is this he looked at round 1 and 2, which I mentioned this last week. I said I expect us to go 0-2. They've got a game plan in place for Richmond and Geelong, and then smooth on from there. Play our centre bounce, clearance, attacking football after that. Something that supports that theory is the fact that Pitnet didn't get selected again. Because Voss would be sitting there thinking, okay, give him 1 more week. Knowing we're going to go crash and bash from round 3, we'll give Pitnet 1 more week. That supports that theory of maybe we're going to go defensive and try and play that similar game style to get, if we can get out of, I'm certain, obviously they wanted the win, but if you had have said, if we can get out of rounds 1 and 2 with 2 points, I reckon they would have bitten your arm off. I would have bitten your arm off. I'm ecstatic we're on 2 points. Ecstatic. Because I just, like what you said before, the way when we played Richmond late in the year, they murdered us. And Geelong murdered us last year. Like, it's just, we had to do something different round 1 and 2. If you went in doing the same thing, you're cooked. So that's what pleased me the most. It pleased me the most that they acknowledge we needed to do something. Why wait till round 3 not doing for round? Because we're not good enough. That's why. Because we finished 9th and these teams played finals. One thing, I don't know, Hypnosis, whatever, if you follow the Hypnosis ball, if you follow the round ball, whatever, sometimes you've just got to take it and say, we're not good enough. They're the better team. Let's adapt to play against them. Is that a loser mentality? I don't give a fuck if it is. That's the reality. The reality is Richmond and Geelong are better teams than us. They finished, Geelong won the fucking premiership and Richmond finished in the finals. We finished 9th. We have to adapt. Now, Geelong game passes, whatever happens. When we come up against GWS and all the teams in the next 5 games, that's a different story. If we're still playing this possession, slow football, then I'll be the first one in here saying they're fucked. But anyone who talks about saying, oh, no, we should have gone at them, we go roll, clearly doesn't understand footy and doesn't understand sport, because the reality is Richmond and Geelong are better than us. So you have to adapt, you have to change. And that's what pleased me the most.
Yeah, no, I think the big thing for me is that defensive game style. You definitely saw quarter 4, Carlton press the button to go through the gears. And in my opinion, watching it back on the 3rd, I thought the boys came out of the 4th with a bit of that defensive mindset, which I think was a mistake. I think if they had their time again, and Voss has alluded to this about situation management, and he used the phrase, we got it wrong. And the fact he used, we got it wrong, screams to me that was something he did. That I maybe gave the call to slow it down a bit, because I think you look at the back end of that 3rd quarter, Carlton were coming quite hard and had wrestled hard. Richmond had really hit us, had wrestled the lead back. I felt come out very early, then hit them, and then go back in your shells a bit, knowing they were going to come hard at you. And I think when you break the game down into its incidentals, ironically, going hail for leather the last 5 minutes, it's probably what cost us the game, because McGovern hits Motlop for no reason, plays on, gives the ball off to O'Brien. There is a way there, and I think there's a great little thing that Fox covered. Carlton could have taken 55 seconds off the clock and had 30 seconds when that ball got into TDK. That is hindsight, and everyone's a general once you've won the war or lost it. But
yeah,
that says to me that there's hope. Now, the other thing that gave me hope, and what does everyone else think like this? I am kind of upset about the team selection. Not going to lie. Jack Martin is evidently going to miss. I've got a lot of questions, but kind of, I have a bit of solace. They've backed the same team in. And that kind of then gave me the impression. I was reading about him at Port, Voss, and 2020 Hinckley credited Voss with the game plan that got them to the top of the ladder and was incredibly poignant. And part of his process of learning was making the players learn lessons in their state league football, of hanging them out to dry almost, and putting them on players that were oversized. So they had to really learn, and it was detrimental to their state league side, but really good for their senior side. And their senior side kind of played like Carlton last year when we were 8-2. It was quick, it was fast, it was their similar kicking stats to Carlton, high work rate, people working back and forth, creating easy kicking options. And that kind of made me think maybe last week was a two-pronged attack. Maybe defense was too much, but then maybe situation in game forced them to be like that. Because no one's talked about Richmond with dog shit too. I have never seen a Richmond side play like that either. So maybe it was the situation created that avenue. So for me, it's a wait and see. And I think Gllenn nails it. In the first 5 minutes, you'll know.
I think what you're saying is right in a lot of ways. How are Richmond escaping scot-free on this? I don't really get, because they were fucking horrendous as well. To me, I really changed my tune and my thoughts. So I watched the game live first, really flat, listened to Voss's press conference, and he was quite positive. Now, I'm going to put this on the table right now. A lot of people have criticized, that's not good enough. Why are you praising this? For me, I look at it the other way. I say, to me, it showed that the players listened and they played to a plan. Forget if the plan's dog shit, right? Forget if the plan looked like shit, and forget if the plan's rubbish. It showed to me something that I was worried about. Do the players actually listen, and do they actually know what they're doing? And if Voss to come in a press conference saying they did what we asked them to do, can't fault them, to me that says they listened. That's one argument. There's two different arguments here. Game plan, fucking garbage, terrible, but the players listened to it. And it's like a good boss always says, if I tell you what to do and you make a mistake, you do what I do, do what I tell you to do and you make a mistake, that's on me. But if you make a mistake doing something I didn't tell you to do, that's on fucking you. And I think the players made the mistakes or did whatever by what the coach has said. And that is a positive thing because they're listening. They've got the plan. The other thing is, like you said, relatively unchanged lineup shows that they've got a process. They know what they're doing. Granted, I fucking hate the look of the team for tomorrow night. I hate it, but they do. They know what they're doing. They think they know what they're doing, and the players are listening. And I think that's what worried me the most. Are these players smart enough? Do they listen? Well, they obviously did because Voss was happy with it.
I think it's a good argument. And Bretsky's saying he's worried about tomorrow night. I mean, am I worried? I'm never worried because I'm blindly stupid. I see something in these boys. I think these boys, and I won't have anyone tell me I'm wrong because I know I'm right. I think on talent and on ability, this side is genuinely a top 6 side. Genuinely a top 6 side. There's way too much talent in the places that win you games. To be it. The questions I've got, is it tactics? Is it ball movement? Are these boys too shell-shocked because they've had 2 horrific coaches that hung them out to dry? But I would say, all things equal, I look at our list, I look at what they can achieve. They're just as good as their compatriots. They just don't have the success yet. And they remind me of Richmond 2016. So much talent, but everyone's like, oh, they've missed the window. But it just needs to click, and I'm waiting for it to click.
I'm with you. And as far as being worried goes, I mean, there's no point being worried about tomorrow night. We're playing against the premiers who beat us by 5 goals last year. I mean, even if we get beat or get like, big deal. Like, we're playing against a team who are far superior than us in every single way, on field, off field, everything. The only thing we've got above Geelong is it's a fucking shithole of a place, Geelong. That's the only thing we've got above them, right? Had to throw that one in there. But no, I think, yeah, just the other thing we got to remember, we all have a bit of PTSD what happened against Melbourne and Collingwood. We've all got it. If you think we've got it, imagine what those coaches have. I mean, these are coaches who've literally failed at their job. They failed at their... Think about a time, everyone in your workplace, where you've completely fucked up to the max, where you're just like, I can't sleep at night. We've all done it. I've done it. We've all done it. That you have completely stuffed up to the max where you can't sleep at night. That's what these coaches are going through. They're human. Obviously, there was always a chance they were going to go, holy crap, how do we get it, and go flip it completely the other way? Because they're all in it together. It's not about Voss and all that. They're all in it together. Hansen, Hamill, holy shit, guys, we completely fucked up. Have they panicked? Time will tell. Who knows? But I literally could completely understand and relate if they did panic, because what happened at the end of 2022 will be spoken about for a generation. Like it or lump it, it will be spoken about for a generation. Just like we shit can Essendon for not playing finals for 6,000 days, and we shit can Collingwood for losing to Domshi goal. What happened in round 23 of 2022 will be spoken about when my kids are my age. That's a reality. And these blokes have to live with that. So, of course, they're going to maybe make mistakes because they're going to panic. Of course.
It's a great thing. And I think leading up to this game, I think for me, Geelong are a great chance for us to show something, because I know Ben's in chat. He's a Collingwood fan. Collingwood showed you how Geelong are susceptible, and people are saying, really downplaying it, and it actually annoys me, because Tom Stewart, they have a higher win rate without Tom Stewart. And the fact that they could roll players like Blitzarbs down back, Ratikalia's numbers were good. And you've got to remember, Geelong were on top for 90% of that game without Tom Stewart. What won that game is Collingwood's real ruthless commitment to sticking to the plan, and also Tom Stewart. And they showed you that, and this is where Voss was a genius last year. The biggest misconception with Carlton Football Club is their shit kickers. Winds me up. Absolutely winds me up, because I read the stats almost in an anal way, right? The great kickers of this game kick about 11 to 15 meters. And the reason is they're playing for sides that actively run hard. And if you go back and watch any still of Carlton kicking this week, our midfield ran miles away from the defence. They were never there to support. Poor Harry and Charlie. Two things happen in Carlton's inside 50s, and this is going to hold us back. And it comes on to my second misconception about my football club, is our small forwards don't crumb. Well, there's a reason, right? Jack Silvani and Jack Martin have this horrible habit of being in front, in the perfect position, but then they get drawn to going into the aerial contest. Owies is the biggest culprit of this, and the guy's 4'2". Motlop loves to fly, and that is the big thing, that they don't, that our club is very static. And my fear is, and this is the only fear I've got, is if they play too much like that, they're going to give advantage to Geelong, because Geelong don't care. They don't care if the ball's in motion. They don't care if the ball's static. Their system is probably the greatest system in the AFL today for handling every game style. It's a very plug-and-play technology. But if Carlton go hard, if Carlton find that inner desire, they go back to that early season where we had McGovern, who I thought did some really nice things. People complain about him. He complained about him last week. Ridiculous. he made them mistakes because he had no option. Apart from the ball on the outside of his boot, no one was running to the ball carrier. Same with the forwards. No one runs and leads to the ball carrier. They lead away. It's harder to kick or take a catch like this than it is in front of you. Big thing there. If Carlton go back to that way, Geelong are in trouble. Are in massive trouble. But Carlton have got to go to it. And that is what I call into question. I'd love to know what chat think. I sometimes worry, are we susceptible to media? Because I look at Collingwood, and McRae has never said. I remember one of the greatest answers to a question last year was when David King was doing that thing. Oh, winning tight games isn't possible. Impossible to do. Disregarding David King's poster boy of AFL is Richmond, who had the lowest winning percentage in AFL history, 96%. Nearly every game on average was a tight game for them until the last 5 minutes. Is that McRae replied and goes, yeah, you're right, it's not sustainable, but so far it's kept us in the top 4, right? Which was like a big at the media. And I love that childish response. I felt like at times Carlton massively did that whole, have they got a bit fearful? Because I don't think we needed to change it. I think we need to stick to our game plan and refine it and get better.
Yeah. Look, I've been pretty big on this. And I know I'm going to get shit canned for this because what I always do when I say it, we're a loser club. We have been for 20 plus years. Loser clubs panic. Loser clubs react. We're a club full of losers, and that's a fact. You can say whatever you want. It's a fact. We are a club full of losers. So of course they're going to react. You know, Collingwood, as much as we all hate them and all that, you know, I still remember they were down when we got the wooden spoon to get Mark Murphy. A lot of people forget they had pick 2 and pick 5. They got Daisy Thomas and Pendlebury. They were down the same time we were when we got Mark Murphy. What did we do? Mark Murphy, Bryce Gibbs, Matthew Good. What did they do? They won a flag 3 years later. Winners. Do you know what I mean? That's what it is. McRae has gone into a club of winners. And I don't know if it's Sayers, I don't know who it is, but something needs to click and change, because at the moment we're a club of losers, which is why we react, which is why we don't release that George Hewitt fucked his hand up 3 days ago when we all knew it, but the club won't release it because they're scared.
The Jack Martin one as well kills me. But I mean,
the Jack Martin, they're scared. They're cowards and they're scared. And I get it because they've posted this thing. We want 100,000 members. Oh shit, we've just posted this big promo about 100,000 members. If we release this information, we might not get there. Fuck me. Just. It's a fact. They're scared. It's a club of losers, but we still get behind and we still, you know, roll it through. But it doesn't surprise me.
But you
can't.
Yeah. Sorry, my big thing on that though is like I look at Richmond and I remember 2016 Richmond. There was that famous article of Gale's plan in tatters, right? And people forget. You look at Richmond 2016. A lot of the superstars of that team now were your Zach Fishers of our team now. Yeah. Oh, they can be good, but they were dog shit last week. And I just thinking there's a massive part. I want everyone to know, even though I might sound negative, 75% of me still believes that you haven't seen what we actually are doing. And I actually think last week was preordained. And I just think what Voss is saying is true. They just got it wrong. They got their timings wrong. And that's to back what Fazz says up. This side isn't a winning side. They have to learn that. And I think last year we kind of got ourselves out of trouble by sheer will and determination, which for me is like what Richard says. Richmond were losers. Do you know what I mean as well? They got themselves out of trouble by backing the system.
Yeah. And that's exactly right. And I'm not saying we can't get out of it. Like something will change and we'll get out of it, whatever it is. Possibly making finals last year might have got us out of it. I don't know. Whatever it is, but something will get us. But the reality is it's nothing against them and all that. Like, we love the club. We're all a part of it. We all watch it, but they and I just see comments. We're not losers. We just don't know how to win. Well, fuck me. Isn't that what being a loser is? Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah.
I know Brody. I think Brody is missing what you mean. I don't think he's saying losers in the derogatory word.
No, I'm not. I'm not. Yeah, I'm not. I'm not.
I think
It's not
people are
derogatory.
thinking, like, you're calling them like failures as human beings. I think
No.
The best way to describe it is Wenger. Is Mourinho. We are specialists in failure. So
Yes,
at the moment, there's a pressure handling technique, I say, and I call it the run home to mum, right? The default setting of a human being under pressure. And we all have our run
the Horn Francis, if you will.
Yeah. So when you're a kid, do you know what I mean? There was 3 types of kids, wasn't there, right? There was the kid that, I'm taking my ball and going home if he didn't get it he wanted. There was the kid that a lot of people are aimable, and they just were like, okay, let's find a happy medium. And then there's the third kid. I was the third kid. I was this brother. Nah, fuck it. We're doing it my way, or we'll have a tear up. Do you know what I mean? Let's fight for it. Let's have a scrap, right? And it's your default setting when you shit yourself, right? So at the moment, Carlton for years, rightly or wrongly, have been built up to be something amazing. Every draftee he's talked about being the next fucking Jimmy Bartel, Chris Judd. Don't matter if he's pick 812 or he's 1. I never forget when Chris Judd did his leg and retired straight away. Cripps had a half a good game after. Half a good game. It's all right. The next Judd's here. Do you know what I mean? Where at other clubs, no one gives a shit. It's like, prove it to me. Prove it to me. So I think 2 things have happened at Carlton, right? 2 things have massively happened. One, they've always had hope that's come from internal. Whether, and I don't blame the fans, your job is to give them love, but also to chastise them. We're the most important cog of this machine, right? Most important cog. Fuck Sayers, fuck Voss. We are who they play for. They play for us. Not them, us. We're superior, right? But sometimes that weakens your product when our club build them up as well. Our club is the worst for that, building them up, which I think takes their eye off the ball. Now, they are a serious football outfit. I speak to a lot of guys in the industry who work in football departments. Good mate of mine works for Melbourne, and he said it's the first time I've ever played your football club and not gone 4 points, right? So it broke my heart, but he said since he's been working there 5 years, it's the first time he's looked down and gone, fuck Carlton. Oh, shit. This is a game. This is a football game. We've got a bowl game here, boys. Usually
it's changing. It's changing.
Yeah. So now the boys have got to get it. I remember Nick Newman having a beer with him and him saying the hardest part of being a Carlton player at the moment, and it made me laugh, right, was opening up the newspaper and not basically being called a CUNT, right? It was weird for him because this was when we were 7-1. And he said, switch on the TV and hearing Robbo say, fucking hell, Carlton are up and about. Oh, this guy's saying Carlton are good. Wow, Carlton are top 4 side. Wow. And suddenly his whole intrinsic, that told me one thing. His intrinsic motivation was basically being called a dickhead, a failure, a loser. All these words.
Exactly, which is the point I'm saying.
Yeah. Suddenly now he had to go out there as a winner. And how do you motivate? Dustin Martin, 2017.
You can't just flip that. You can't just flip that.
Dustin Martin, 2017, in the bath, contemplating suicide because he'd achieved everything. Suddenly his brain was like, fuck, we're always striving for something. The strive has gone. What do I do? So for me, I kind of like what Voss has done. My point here is to be a winner is simple. It is sticking to your guns. And it's interesting. Brody's led me to Luff. You know, I'm a big thing about stats matter. These are the most important things. Coming from a golf background, swing coaches are irrelevant. The most important part of your team is your stat guy who tells you Every little thing you do wrong that you didn't even know you did wrong, that your coach laughs at, but suddenly finds out. Carlton, if they're learning what's bad, defensive transition killed us last year. That Hawthorn game is a great example that we were the best side by a country mile, but every time we went inside 50, Hawthorn picked us off. Right? If they learn to stop that and you bring back that contested brand, that physicality, that quick ball movement, which is, and I know for a fact, the short ball movement and play on, we're 18th this year. We were number 1 for play-ons last year, was caused because Carlton are a crap kicking side. So they're not a strong kicking side. So it was move the ball quickly, playing to our strengths. Why Austin has targeted every player in the draft this year who can run 15Ks. That is why. Yeah. So for me, I am excited, but like Fazz says, to back his point, because we've been losers for so long, there's a huge part of POM that exists that goes, fucking been here before. I've lost these games. So imagine what every 23 men who go and play Geelong tomorrow feel. They have been here before. They have been pillars. They have been successful on the brink. And then they've been on the scrap heap and people are forgetting about them. And you know what? They fucking need us because I fucking hate Geelong. And you know what? I'm sick of hearing in papers all the time. Geelong are the best club in the AFL. 2 fucking flags with the best list in 20 years. They can fuck off. Fazz, your mic. It's squeaking, but is he back? Fazz? Fazz? I can't hear you, bub. This happened last time. But honestly, I while Fazz does that, he'll just shout at us. They kill me, Geelong, because they are literally the best at being really good.
Mate, they're piss. They're piss. The town, like I said, I've been on it about the town. But the last thing I'll say on this, right? The last thing I'll say, and honestly, the only good thing to go through Geelong, right, is the only thing about to get through to go to Ocean Grove. Now, I've been, as anyone can hear, I've got a bit of a croak, so I've been muting my mic to cough, and I've obviously fucked it up when I muted it. But what I will say, the last thing I'll say about this, because we've got to move on, because a lot of people want to hear us talk about other things. The last thing I'll say about this is that I've always been a big believer in saying, you know, I've been on recruiting panels, I've been on a lot of things, and saying sometimes your biggest strength can be your biggest weakness. So when someone says you're really confident, is a great strength, but can also be perceived as arrogance, right? And I think Carlton's greatest strength is being the Carlton Football Club, but it's also our biggest weakness. Like what you said, this kid gets drafted to Carlton, must be a gun. And I think sometimes we need to detract from that. We need to, you know, move away from that as far as, you know, I've got mates at work, Essendon supporters, and they know more about the fucking Carlton draftees than they know their own draftees because he's so heavily scrutinised. Liam Stocker, I'll use him as an example. Every single football fan in the country knows Liam Stocker's name for fuck knows what reason, but they know who he is because he played for Carlton. It's as simple as that.
No, mate, I agree with you. And I mean, going into it, little pop quiz for you, for your little statisticians out there. Who do you think on our list has a staggering 55% better game than his expected output versus Geelong? I bet, unless anyone watched Blue Abroad where I mentioned it quickly, I bet no one gets it.
What was the stat?
So 55% better expected output. So take his average and increase it by 55%.
I'm going to guess a player that hasn't played for Carlton for very long. Maybe. I don't know. I'm going to go with McGovern.
Well, Paul, I don't know if you were there. Matthew, I don't know if you were there. Richard, you were very quick. You were very quick. It is. If you did watch the show with Black Dog, you know I made the joke saying this is why they're going to pay him $1 million. But here we are, 55.9% increase in output. And that leads me on to Lana, to the wonderful Gina's question on is that why Piternet's not playing? Now, there's a reason that I don't mind Pitternet not playing for this game. And me and Paolo had a heated discussion about this last night, where I was saying that Pitternet plays round 1 for me. You've got to play him against Nank. However, him versus Stanley historically has been a very good matchup. And the reason is Stanley's not known for his strength. Stanley's big knock and why Geelong keep trying to buy Ruckman is because he's considered lightweight by the industry, which is a fair call. He is quite light. I think it's a perfect little matchup for him, to be honest. And I think next week, no Bruce, but Flynn. I think Pitternet comes back in. I'm surprised Ed Kerno plays because I don't think you need to tag Geelong at all. I think they're a structural team. But I'm not excited by the team, but I'm not scared by the team.
Yeah, I think I described it as horseshit. So let's go.
Predictions, chat. What are your predictions for tomorrow? Fazz, I'm going to ban you like I did Let Dog. You can't say Geelong by more than 60. I'm capping you.
Look, I'll be honest. This time last week, I said I'll set the scenario out for you. Blues are up by 7 points with 2 minutes to go, and I'll let you finish the sentence.
You nailed it,
me,
by the way.
Yeah. So I'm going to go again. Blues are up by 28 points at three-quarter time. Geelong kicked 3 goals in the first 5 minutes in the last quarter. You can finish the sentence.
Oh, come on, Fazz. Not again. Because I watched this game on repeat and I was like, fucking hate Fazz.
Yeah, so there you go. Blues up by 28 points at three-quarter time. Geelong, goal. Clearance. 10 points. You guys can finish the tale.
I've already seen how this one finishes. I think this is TDK's game. I think this is TDK's game, and I think TDK gets the winner and Carlton win by 5.
I love it, and thanks, Gavin Dramini. Yes, I did predict Harry Mackay to slip. Unfortunately, it was the last 30 seconds instead of the first 30 seconds, so I did get that right. But when McGovern did what he did in the first 30 seconds, I thought, shit, I was right, just the wrong end of the ground. But no, yeah, trust me, I did not miss the irony when Harry Mackay slipped over at the end of the game. I'm just like,
mate,
anyway.
To answer John, I do feel, and to who replaces Jack Martin, I'd imagine O'Brien comes in because I think we've got way too many forwards, and suddenly it makes sense why Durden came in for Hewitt, because at the time I was questioning it, but I'd imagine it's O'Brien or the horrible Josh Honey, who I love Honey, but he worries me.
Mate, I said to my old man on the phone today, I said, I'm putting a blanket ban on Josh Honey. If anyone mentions Josh Honey on my Twitter, you're blocked. If anyone mentions Josh Honey to me, I will not have it. I will not have it.
But to answer your question, John, I have been a big advocate this week of the time is Dow.
Yes, the time is Dow.
And after 2 years of saying I never want to see Dow in the team again, I came back, I readjusted myself, and I picked him in my subs bench. And I'm absolutely flabbergasted he's not there, to be honest. It's actually broken me for the first time.
You ready for Fazz's big call? You want to hear it?
Yeah, go on.
I'm a big believer in history repeats itself. I think that when people say history doesn't repeat itself, they're morons. History always repeats itself. Who was Carlton's last Norm Smith medalist?
Fuck me.
Diesel. It was Diesel, right?
I was going to say that was a long time ago. Yeah.
And what number did Diesel wear?
I did. I was going to say, is it?
I'm
It's
call,
Dow.
Paddy Dow will be Carlton's Norm Smith medalist this year when we lift the flag. There you go. A rags to riches tale.
Mate, Gina, you know I love Josh Honey. I absolutely adore him. But yeah, for me, please stop playing him in the seniors. Give him some solid VFL time. Because he's my favourite. He's my favourite. And I can't believe you predicted Dow to win the Norm Smith.
History repeats itself.
But I'm excited. But let's check out what's happening in the AFL world.
Yeah. Please tell me that I can't, that I won't, that I fail, that I'll never make it out, yeah. Please tell me all the bad, never good, fill my head full of every single doubt, yeah. Please say any negative thoughts, I pop off when I...
Well, I mean, we had an uneventful week of AFL football. It was horrible for tipping because it was all over the place. Everyone just did whatever they wanted. Some horrible games. Geelong obviously got stuffed, which was the worst case scenario on the POM plan. Absolutely. But I will say this. I wanted to talk about something that I feel very strongly about, and I want chat's opinion, because I felt the biggest story this week was the MCG, right? So I want to picture a scenario, right, to try and explain it in a way that I can understand. So let's go back to Qatar, the World Cup, December. Imagine the week before the World Cup final, right, in Qatar, they had Taylor Swift concert, 200,000 people over 2 days, trampled it. The kickoff is here. We're finally here. World Cup final. Argentina versus France. Right? Imagine it. Enzo Fernandez tackles Rabiot. Plays Messi through. Messi. He beats Varane. He's through on goal. He rounds Emilio Martinez. It's going to be 1-0. Suddenly, loose bit of returf that they've done. And he snaps his ACL. Goes off. Right? I'm going to tell you a scenario of what happened, right? In 5 days' time, Qatar would have been invaded by the 8 million populace of Argentina. And Argentina now would have a sister country as they've taken over Qatar, right? How is, in the AFL, 2 years they've had, 2 years, just so you know, it was a postponed concert. In that time frame, Gil McLaughlin, in his infinite wisdom, not only shortened preseason by a week, right, which ironically takes about 5 to 7 days for turf to take, right, on that scale, which would have given you that week. But number 2, he's added a fucking round as well. Let that sink in. So let that sink in, right? And again, Gil McLaughlin, the boffin who he is, has managed in 2 years to create a rule like stand on the mark and then be shocked that people handball and manipulate the 50 rule. He's had to change that. He's added a game to celebrate Adelaide. Fuck me. People in Adelaide dream of moving to Melbourne, right? What is going on? Like, how can we not postpone the biggest tournament in Australia, the biggest competition, and wait a fucking week? How?
You don't need to get me started on my opinions on the turf. And turf, you know, not just at the MCG, but also down at Princes Park. It was a joke. It was nothing short of a joke. Anyone who says it wasn't a joke, anyone who says it was fine, is on the payroll of the AFL. It's a piss take, to be honest. We just need to thank our lucky stars. We bloody got through unscathed,
mate.
Yeah, it's wild, mate. And I mean, I genuinely believe a lot of the terrible skills, and a lot of people say, but look at the Geelong Collingwood game, whatever. But a lot of the terrible skills were down to players being unsure of it,
mate,
being a little bit hesitant.
Lana nails it, Doc. Doc saying that he feared for his ACL concerns me. And, you know, the big thing for me is I did actually say this the other day. I am actually excited that Carlton did play a slow brand, because with some of our players, it would have been like the first day of the SOM. I said St Kilda's list was the second day of the SOM. Ours would have been the fucking first day of the SOM if we'd played fast. But I will say this, for those saying AFL doesn't earn it, AFL doesn't own the G, you are correct. But it owns the schedule for the AFL. So,
Correct.
You know what I mean? There is, like I've suggested, there was a lot of options available to the AFL. Do you know what I mean? You could have, if you look at the schedule, you could have quite easily shifted it so Carlton played Eagles in Perth. Do you know what I mean? You could have scrapped the round one tradition for the betterment of the game. Do you know what I mean? Then you could have played more games at the Marvel and then the bigger teams playing at the bigger grounds around the country. And I don't think anyone would have complained. But I did speak to a friend of mine that played on Friday night, and he did describe the pocket as unplayable, were his words. Unplayable. And it was a decision by Collingwood for bravery. If you go back, and it is actually noticeable, they don't kick it inside 50 long. They play short, and they are relying on it. But for me, honestly, in my opinion, it is disgraceful, in my opinion, that the biggest, this is the biggest competition in the AFL. Do you know what I mean? Biggest competition in Australia. This is number one. I would argue AFL is at a position now that if cricket go, oh, but what about the Big Bash? They say, fuck off to Bendigo. No one likes the Big Bash. Do you know what I mean?
Correct.
Even guys who play state park cricket in the UK don't even want to come over and play BBL now. BBL is behind, it's probably going to be behind the American, and they've called it the Major League Cricket League. I mean, that's how bad that is. That is going to be bigger than the BBL. So, for me, you could have changed it up a little bit, because Ed Sheeran was always going to happen. He got, 85K last year? 85K last year? Last time he came, and he's now a bigger entity. It was always going to happen. And I understand, like Lana's saying, the Premier League, we wouldn't do it. Of course we wouldn't do it. No teams would. And I'll tell you what, I made this comment on the rest. If a Premier League team did this, it wouldn't be the two teams playing complaining. It would be literally every football team would complain. Would complain, it's a risk to your stock. And go back and watch Tom Stewart's injury. Diabolical that's happened in an elite level sport.
Mate, it's spot on. And I've been big on this show for last year. And the AFL tries to act like it's a big dog. But it's not. Again, it's amateur hour. Week after week, year after year, they prove to be amateur hour. This would not happen. They want to compete. Gil McLaughlin, this smug ass bullshit face, sitting on AFL 360 the other night, saying, "Oh, we're bigger than the NRL, and we consider ourselves to be the best sport." Mate, you're fucking amateur hour, and it's a joke. It's an absolute joke. Mate, there's nothing else to say it.
It actually worries me, because do you know what I mean? I'm just thinking, people saying but what can they do? Tell you what, we'd be having a very different conversation as a Carlton fan base if that was, heaven forbid, Cripps, Doc, and Kerner. Do you know what I mean? I'll tell you now, there wouldn't be a show if it was Cripps, Kerner, and fucking Mackay or Doc. It would be me and Fazz live streaming as we burn down AFL House.
Yeah, I'm halfway there, mate. Hey, welcome to the watch along as we burn down AFL House. Don't worry. Don't worry. We've notified their families.
Do you know what I mean? Mate, it's, for me, it's a bizarre thing. And then I want to shift over to Harry Sheezel. Right now, this for me shows the AFL's incompetence, and it's an issue that deeply affects me. Right, deeply affects me because it's very close to my natural heritage, and to see a young man on a weekend that was Harmony Week, which he's meant to push the unification of the world, on a day that he debuts when Australians of all people, and Australians like to throw guilt around to other countries, and I feel it's only fair that we throw it back because we live by the sword, we die by the sword. A country that its major contribution to modern day history is not just fighting in 2 world wars, but opening its borders to the people deeply affected during the darkest time in human history, the Holocaust. Something that deeply affected my family and my heritage. To see Nazi salutes in this country, and then the same day, first time in a decade, in this decade, a Jewish kid plays our great game. Our great game. To be subjected to who cares he won the Rising Star nomination, he's only Jewish, and the AFL not make a statement about it. And then I look at it this way. That was a perfect opportunity with all that was going on in the world. I find it the worst thing I've seen in this country that any Australian, given this great nation's history, would even not be incredibly offended the Nazi salute has come to our stores. But she's all having that. And the AFL, if that was an Indigenous player, imagine the Indigenous outrage. If someone said, oh, it doesn't matter, he's only Indigenous. Imagine the AFL. Imagine the AFL's thing. When Betts, all of them videos, he was on every show, and quite rightly too, educating and sharing his story. That's how we learn. If that was Adam Saab, they went whole hog to talk about Ramadan and his religion, so we understood. And it was a great conversation to have with my kids. It's been a great conversation to have with my kids this week, and I am ashamed, as a very proud plastic Australian, that I got to use this example today so my kids could better understand why my grandfather who raised me went to war. Because people have them views on a small scale that leads to the big. And the big thing that scares me is the AFL hasn't touched it. Even North Melbourne are quick to support Taron Thomas, who has done something that is heinous. And they haven't addressed this. And what's even worse is it's heavily speculated by the guy's Twitter history who originally commented, he's a Carlton fan. He's one of our own. And we also ourselves have a proud history with the Jewish community. And it's a show for me of how fucked Australia's AFL is. The fact that they will support certain minorities and social causes and not all of them. Because for me, all of them are important. And for me, on behalf of the Pommy and Oz channel, God bless you, Harry Shazo, and you are an absolute superstar, and you have a whole community of not just Jewish community, but the whole AFL's around you, and long may it continue.
Yep. Well said. I've myself have got sucked in to a bit of Twitter argy-bargy with certain people this week in regards to something similar. And one thing I like to teach my kids at school, anyone, is the behavior you walk past is the behavior you accept. And the fact that the AFL have walked past this shows they accept it. To me, again, I'm very big on making sure things aren't tokenistic or like that. And what's happened to this poor young man with what we've seen now, no support, is proven that it's very tokenistic, that we'll stand up for you when it benefits us, and that's wrong. And like I said, I got in a very emotional and heated Twitter stoush. Yeah, exactly, Jason. Yeah, walk past Sandy's set, and I got in a very emotional and a stoush with the person on Twitter because of this, because I just couldn't sit idly by and watch this happen. Watch things, and I don't want to talk about this, but we have to. But I don't want to sit here and watch things like the Nazi salute come to our shores. Watch things like the Nazi salute be accepted. Not just accepted, more so passed off as it's free speech, yeah? We can do whatever we want, yeah? It's sad. It's sad. And I worry. I've got young daughters. I worry. And it's just, I hope that the AFL in the position they're in, get around, and they released a statement at 3:00 today saying, the flag was allowed all of a sudden. It's just like, yeah, come on.
Gavin, to give you context yourself, and I can't remember who else was asking, there was some comments made on Instagram and Twitter as well on the Rising Star nomination to Shiesel. One of the comments being, who gives an F? He's only a Jew.
Yeah.
Which the AFL actually responded to the post and said, "Oh, you're reported and banned."
Yeah.
And we've heard nothing since. Where
no, and it extended from that. It extended from that because there was a Israeli flag at the North Melbourne game, and someone in the AFL come out and said that flag shouldn't have been allowed in the ground for whatever bizarre reason. And then they released a statement today saying, "Oh, actually, that's not true. The flag was allowed in the ground." So it was just all this. It was wild. It was just crazy.
And for me, it was a perfect opportunity with Shiesel to push him as a wonderful, wonderful pillar for the community. And what has been sad today is I made a post about it, and I've been contacted by one guy I work very closely with in my capacity with BA, who is Jewish, and to find out that this is a daily occurrence, that things like that go on the fly. To a lesser extent, my heritage is Romany, and it's something that a lot of people find out and then drop the jokes. You don't live in a caravan and stuff. I'm lucky I don't find them deeply offensive, but I know that my parents would, because they were very proud, and that was a stereotype that they didn't like. But for me, to answer your question about politics, this was my main point to end the rambling, is when I was a young man growing up, we didn't have many black people in my community. We had Indians, and that was just normal. They talked like me. They were probably third, fourth generation English people, and you didn't really think anything of it. Do you know what I mean? If they were wearing turbans or that they were Sikh, and they had different regalia and different spiritual beliefs, you kind of just accepted it. But African origin people in my area, where I didn't see anyone of color other than Indians till I was in secondary school. So for me, it felt, and my kids felt the same. It's kind of a fugazi when you're saying, don't judge people because of their gender. Don't judge people because of their sex. Don't judge people because of their race. It sounds good in theory, but when you can't see it enacted, it's kind of hard. So I remember learning about racism through Michael Thomas. And I remember one of the most powerful images as a kid was seeing him cry due to bananas being thrown at him and monkey chants, and talking about how hard it is, and how this is a daily occurrence before he was a footballer for many black youths, and about kids and going through just playing soccer as an under-7. And he experienced this from coaches and stuff, and being genuinely taken aback because you revere these men as heroes. So for you to see a hero cry, that broke a wall for me of, oh, wow, I really get it. I love Michael. I don't want him to be upset. Do you know what I mean? And I don't want to be that person because I can see my hero cry. Do you know what I mean? It's real all of a sudden. Because usually my parents probably worded racism and sexism and things like I do to my kids. It's just fucking idiots, mate. Do you know what I mean? Some people are just horrible, vindictive, idiotic people. And I think it's so important we have these conversations. And you know what? I'll finish it this way. As a white English person, I can tell you AFL is one of the more intimidating places to come. When I first came here, believe it or not, I used to have people go, "Well, the fuck do you know? You're a pom." I've had people call me horrific names, do you know what I mean, from opposition fans. I've had one person who called me an Aboriginal killer once, which I couldn't believe. All because I was a Pom and what the fuck was I doing talking about your game? So I can only imagine what it's like to actually be a proper outsider, because the way I see it, English people are technically Australian, aren't they? Do you know what I mean? Like our history is entwined. Do you know what I mean? Like in England, we consider you guys our brothers, the same as we do our Americans. You're our link. You're always there when we need you, and we're there with you. So I implore you as an AFL community, it's when I got accepted by you guys, fuck, this became my home instantly. And I'm going to be quite honest, I fucking hated this country. I hated it. I wanted to go home. And this is the greatest country in the world. So it is our duty, do you know what I mean, to do it. And what Peter's saying there, racism will always exist. Of course it will. However, that's human nature. Prejudice is part of evolution. However, what shouldn't fucking exist is people who know better standing by and allowing it to happen. Because I'll tell you what, you only have to be responsible for your own tribe. That's what my pop used to say. A man influences his friends. A woman influences her group. And outside of that, no one gives a shit. Do you know what I mean? No one gives a shit. So for me, as a society, as a people, look after your own and you'll see the world change. The world changes one person at a time. It doesn't change en masse. But we can stop that. And do you know what I mean? To see Nazi salutes as someone that is a proud son of a guy that served this country and took a bullet for his country, as a person who was a proud person of Romani family who witnessed seeing the tattoos these barbaric bastards that call themselves Nazis put on her. Tell you what, we're better than that. We are better than that as a people. And I tell you what, I expect us all to stand up for it, because I don't think anyone with a brain would support anything like that.
Spot on. There's not much more I can add to that. And it's obviously something very close to you and very close to a lot of people. And I think, I see it daily at schools and stuff. It just becomes part of the vernacular. I'll even put my hand up, when you were growing up, when I was growing up as a teenager, it was just part of the vernacular. Oh, mate, don't be gay or whatever. It was just part of the vernacular. But you grow up, you change. Now, you hear some of the things that the kids say and the children say, and it's just like, that's not right. But no one's out there policing it. No one's out there governing it, saying, you know what, when your mate's not going to shout you an icy pole at the canteen and you call him, oh, mate, don't be such a Jew. Who's policing that? Why is no one doing it? Because it's been widely accepted as that's just part of the vernacular. That's just how we speak in a really ultimately bogan and racist country. That's just, and it's horrible, and I don't like it. I'll be honest, like, we can all do better. Commenting on some moron's Twitter account is the least someone could do. Is it productive? Is it proactive? Who knows? But every little bit helps. And like I said, seeing the Nazi salutes, to me, that's it. That's just, mate, you can't get much worse than that.
Mate, I guarantee as well, we've all done it. We've all said stupid shit. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? Yep. We've all said things that are unsolid. But you know what? I think what we forget as a people, we've digressed off footy chat, but it is something that I'm passionate about, is I think we've forgotten how we learn. And that's why I think YouTube and social media is a great thing, because the Indigenous have the round the fire chat. Do you know what I mean? In my culture and my religion, we have the elders and speaking, and you learn through experience and stories. And the experience and stories should be graphic. Do you know what I mean? You should embrace your fuck-ups like they're your triumphs. That's what I was taught as a kid. Because when you share these beliefs with your friends, that's how we learn. And a great method is, someone will know the dickhead who tweeted. Someone knows the dickhead who cheated Harry Sheasel. Someone knows the dickhead that backs Nazi salutes. And you know where real change comes from, and the change that I found most poignant in my life is when someone who loves me and cares for me pulls me to one side. I remember when I first started this, I made a real off-the-cuff comment, and it was quite offensive. And I remember them pulling me to one side and saying, mate, I heard you say that. That's not who you are as a human being. I know you're full of love, and I know you meant it as a bit of a fire back. You're a good guy, though. Do better. And when your mate says that to you, that's where respect comes from. If you really love your mate and your mate loves you, they listen. And I do that quite a bit. And you know what? Some of my mates do it with my analogies, believe it or not. They watch my watch-alongs and go, fucking hell, Pom, I heard you say this, buddy. It was hilarious, but fuck, if my nana heard that or my mate Mick heard that, he would be offended. And generally, I try and abuse the things I am. So I'm like, well, I did it. But that's how we learn, is it? And instead of educating other people who are randoms, it's why I hate Twitter and social media and people who white knight and do bollocks. For me, the real change is when you're in the pub with your mate and your mate does what Fazz says. Oh, it's your round. Oh, no, mate, fuck off. And then your mate replies, oh, don't be a Jew. That is when, as a friend, you pull him to one side in the smoking room and go, mate, I know you were joking and I know you don't believe that. But if XYZ hears that, they're going to think like you. And out of love for each other, I don't want my mate ever thinking that you're like that. We're the best mates. And I want people to think the best of you. And that'll hit home more than you going on Twitter and going, oh, XYZ, he's anti-Semitic. He's a dog, right? Just because you want cheap likes. And that, for me, is where society, the AFL, has gone fucking wrong. Everything nowadays is done, oh, I'm a good person. Good people don't chastise. Good people don't punish when someone makes mistakes. Good people love, because love begats hate. I remember my pop saying, when I used to say, how did you survive Juno Beach, Grandad? How did you survive it? I don't understand. And he used to say, look, I promised your nan I'd come home and I love her. And you know what? Fucking came back because you don't break a promise. Love always kills hate. And that's what we need to remember as a people. And that's what the AFL needs to remember. Because for me, the AFL have proved what I'm talking about on Twitter, social media is true. They do stuff so it looks good. It looks fucking good when you're getting sponsorship saying we're an LGBTI-friendly company. We are a female-friendly company. We are Indigenous proud. Looks really good when you're asking for $2.8 million. Do you know what I mean? But, you know what? Evidently, you're not being truthful about being the most inclusive equality game in Australia, because where's the furore about Jewish players? Where it is. Because for me, one Jewish player through the draft in 20 years, this decade, remember it's this decade, given their religion, given that some of them aren't allowed to play on the Sabbath and things like that, how the fuck has only one got through? Are you telling me doors don't close earlier? Because that's what I'm starting to think when you don't push it.
100%. 100%. Spot on. Well, what a... yeah. I hope everyone enjoyed that. I think that was really, really important that we changed... that we changed the tune a little bit. No, it's important. It's important.
But I know this community is great, and that's why I can speak to you guys openly, because you know what? I get it wrong. Fuck, I tell my kids today. My son asked me point blank, Dad, have you ever told a joke about a stereotype? And I was like, fuck, probably up to the age of like 28. Probably all the time. Do you know what I mean? With mates and stuff that were that persuasion. My mate Matt, best mate, he's proud LGBTI. Used to mock him all the time for it out of love. But looking back, as we've got older, we've realized how many of his friends who were homosexual may have been offended by our little private banter that we had because we were best friends since we were 3. It's little things like that that you learn as you get older and then you educate. And that is what I fear society is. Like Jack Ginnivan, you make a mistake, we've got to burn you at the stake. As opposed to you make a mistake, let's learn from it and become better people with love, because love begats hate. You know, a lot of hateful people I've met just need a fucking hug. Do you know what I mean? And it'll change their day. Do you know what I mean? I know when I'm angry and argumentative, getting a bit of a hug, and I'm like, oh, come on, Pom. Stop being such a wet wipe. Stop being horrible. Do you know what I mean? Like, just need a bit of love.
I'm with you. I'm with you. Beautiful. And you know what?
Well,
imagine the love here when we beat the Cats tomorrow night.
Mate, Let's
Good
go
deal.
and smash the fucking cats. Let's go out this week and be the best fucking human we can be. And we will reveal and come back next week with hopefully 4 points. And
4 points. It's happening.
we'll kick some ass. And look, as Amy says, Fazz has said it. Fazz has said it. So we're winning now. He's told us the end. Mate, Richard, you can hug me anytime you want, mate. But we will see you next week. Look after yourself. Pom and Fazz out.
Love yous.